We're live! Woo!
Hi.
Hi. All right. Welcome everyone to the live show for the Host Club Manga Book Club, monthly Manga Book Club. This is the January live show for the 2 manga that we read. We read the first 3 volumes of Overlord, and then we also read one volume, but we'll discuss what composes one volume in a minute, of, I don't know if I'm saying it right. It's either planets or it's planetes. I don't know what the correct way to say it is.
Planets.
Or planets. I don't know. It has 2 E's in it. Whatever rocks your boat, it's fine with me. But I don't know what the right thing is. But let's go around and introduce our hosts first. So you guys should know me if you're here. Welcome. If you're new, my name is Steph from Coffee Over Apples. I am the host for this month. And I guess we will go camera clockwise. And so I will pass you over to Nana.
Hi, my name's Nana from Lit Nana. And that's it.
Preet?
Okay, so hi, I'm Preet from the Bookish Nook. So I make a lot of bookish content, and I do a lot of vlogs and TBR games and a lot of more fun bookish stuff. So if you are into mangas and if you're into animes, I do that also. So yeah, that's all my description is about. Over to Rachel.
Hi, I'm Rachel. I have the channel Let Me in the Library. I am planning to do a lot more manga content coming up in 2021. Steph actually does this really cool thing where she compares like the manga to the anime, which I think is really cool. I don't have the ability because I'm not that like well versed in the anime scene to finish an entire series. But I do love that we do this book club because I think it's just a great opportunity to try out different manga that we haven't tried before. So I think this is like a really great, like every time we do a live show, I'm always like, I'm so grateful for this club, but it really is like a lot of fun. So it's really great.
Yay! Awesome. Okay, so thank you guys so much for joining us. Definitely go subscribe to all of our wonderful hosts. We are missing one host today. Unfortunately, Kitty could not join us, but she's usually here with us, and you can find everyone's information along with Kitty's as well in the description below. The monthly manga book club, if you're new here, is a monthly manga book club in which we read 3 volumes of a really popular manga and then 1 volume of a lesser known manga in order to spread a enjoyment of manga across BookTube. So for this month, we read the first 3 volumes of Overlord. So I'll just give a brief synopsis of what they're about. So Overlord is actually based on the stuck in a game trope. So we're following this one player who was the last person to log out of this very popular video game. It's not that the game is shutting down, it's just that it's kind of fallen out of fashion and it was his favorite game. So he's the last one to sign out. When he goes to sign out, he realizes that he is stuck. Now, in this game, he was a very popular villain character. So he is stuck in the body of a giant skeleton. And he's also been very successful since he's played this game since its inception. So we're kind of following him along with his journey to figure out why he's stuck in the game. Also, all of the NPCs, which are the computer-generated characters in the game, start to develop personalities along the way. The second volume that we read was from this manga called Planets, Planetes, whichever. It is more of a slice of life science fiction manga. We're following this crew of space garbage men, right? And we're kind of following along their journey. There is one particular individual who we're focused on, who he's trying to save up enough money to purchase his own space shuttle and to be an independent astronaut. But we're following different characters and their side stories and what's happened as far as like advancements in space travel and technology. So a lot of sci-fi stuff this month. Should we now, before we start talking about it, quickly introduce what is going to be happening for next month?
Sure. So next month we're going to be doing our discussion over on my channel. I think our live show is set for January 21st, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, February 21st. Wow, that was a big goof. Sorry. February 21st, which I think is a Sunday. So please join us for that, where we'll be discussing 3 volumes of Monthly Girls Nozaki-kun and 1 volume of Horimiya. Both of them have anime, which I think kind of makes it a little bit unusual because usually we try to read 3 things that are very popular and 1 thing that's not so popular. But I think Horimiya has been kind of out of the scope of the popular sphere for so long, and then it just recently came out with an anime. So I think it kind of still counts, but we'll sort of briefly describe them. So I know a lot more about Nozaki-kun than I do about Horimiya, but Nozaki-kun is about this girl who has a crush on a guy, and she goes to confess her love to him, and he misinterprets what she's saying and thinks that she is saying, I want to come work for you as a manga artist. I don't know how he gets this so wrong, but he's like, yep, okay. So he doesn't know that she's in love with him, and she ends up going back to his studio, and she realizes that he's a shoujo manga artist, but he's very embarrassed by it, even though it's so popular, because he thinks that it would give him this kind of like weird impression at school. But she starts to realize that all of the characters in the manga are based off of people that they know in real life. So it's, I think that the manga itself is in the form of 4-panel manga, which is a little bit unusual, but the show is also relatively popular. It's a really fun, very cute, funny manga. And Horimiya, I honestly read it so long ago, I don't even remember that much about it, but it's a romance manga between a girl and a guy. I think the girl is like a little bit more popular, and the guy is, you know, kind of one of those like brooding loner sort of guys, but he takes his glasses off and it's like, wow, I don't know. I don't really remember. But those are the picks that we have. So 3 volumes of Nozaki-kun and 1 volume of Horimiya. So that'll be next month.
Yes. So don't forget to go check out Rachel's channel because she's hosting next month, and that will also be in the description below. So, woo, so excited. Thank you, Rachel. Okay, guys. So I guess now we can start talking about them. I think usually we talk about the single volume that we read first, and then we talk about the other one. So I guess we can start with this one. Should I clear up the confusion about the chapters?
Yeah.
First? Okay. So essentially, I'll try to say it quickly. So what happened was, originally, when this was published in Japan, it was published as 2 large volumes. Then in the year 2000, when it came over to the US, Tokyo Pop brought it on, and Tokyo Pop was kind of, at the time, taking a lot of manga and like shortening them into little smaller booklets that they thought would be more readable for like American audiences. So they broke it up into 4 volumes. But now Dark Horse is the current publisher because Tokyo Pop's not around anymore, and they're publishing it currently in the original format, which is 2 large volumes, if that makes sense. So now we know. So we actually read chapters 1 through 12, which is the current publishing. Okay, I hope that made sense.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So where do we want to start with this? Does anyone want to share their thoughts first?
I think it was amazing. It was like really, really good. And I liked how, I guess, the characters were really well developed and the plot itself was just really interesting. So I was engaged throughout reading it. I read this one after I read Overlord, and Overlord, I was like, oh, you know, I can take a lot of breaks when I'm reading it, but I read it consistently, this one, Planet Thieves.
Oh, okay. Actually, me too. I spent it in like a day. I know Rachel like plowed through this because we were doing a live show.
I always wait till the last possible minute to read everything, usually. And we did a live show, and I just read like almost the entirety of Planets during the live show for reading sprints and stuff. But I really enjoyed it. I think the first volume, I was like, this is good. Like, I wasn't really sure what I was going to expect going in. I guess the thing is, I've been reading like a lot of spacey sci-fi stuff at the same time that seems like relatively similar. So I wasn't even sure where my expectations were, but I was really pleasantly surprised. And then by the time we got around to the second volume for chapters whatever through 12, I really, really liked it because I think everything that was set up in the first one, like it gave us the characters, but I think all the heart came in the second volume.
I agree with all of those statements. Preet, what about you?
So we are talking about Planetes, right? Like, as I told you, so I first read Overlord. I was having a major slump, and sci-fi isn't the exact genre I go in for. So it was really experimental kind of read for me. So I like I had to push myself to read Planeties because I am not a spacey kind of person. So I had to like read myself through it because first initial chapters I was just blank. Like I couldn't think. I was like, okay, I'm just reading, I'm reading. And then by the time it comes to chapter, 6 or 7, I kind of get involved, and that's where my kind of interest gets picked up, and I, read those 5 chapters together. So the beginning was a bit slow for me, but then in the end it kind of got picked up for me. So yeah, in the end I kind of enjoyed it as well.
Oh, yay. Okay, cool. All right. So something that I wanted to like touch on this was I realized this kind of helped me realize how much I enjoy sci-fi that's more like reality based, if that makes sense. It like not so fantastical.
Yeah.
I don't know if anyone else feels that way, but it was like some of the struggles that the characters were going through, I can relate or empathize more, and that kind of like reminded me of why I like this.
I think it had so many parallels to, or I mean, like, I don't think plot-wise, but I think like what the characters were discussing were still topics that anybody in any stage of their life beyond probably like adolescence is still something that everyone contemplates. Things about like, what's my purpose in life and what am I doing? Is this really what I should be doing? If I want to accomplish this goal, is my goal too crazy? And I really enjoyed following Hashimaki-kun because I think he was a really great like he's not a stand-in for the reader or anything like that, but he's a really great pillar for the series because there are a lot of events that are going on around him, but he's pretty like singularly set in his goal. And all the characters that come in and out of his life, I just think that like each of them kind of has their own story. So we still get to see a lot of those stories while we're still following him. And he is still kind of like headstrong enough about his goals that we don't really get that whole thing of like, should I give up? Because I personally don't really enjoy watching someone just be like, should I do the thing I want to do or should I not? And I'm like, just do it. Like, I want to see you do the thing. But I liked that he was so, like he was very, had so much gusto to like go forward and like do what it was that he wanted to do. Although I also agree with Preet that like at the beginning I was kind of confused on like who are we following and like what's going on, because I think there was so much of the setting that had to be established first. And I don't necessarily think it was like done so amazingly. I never would have done anything differently, but I just think that that was sort of what had to happen, where they had to set everyone up. And I was like, so are we following Yuri, who lost his wife? Or are we following the chain-smoking pilot? Or are we following Hachimaki? Like, I don't really know.
Yeah, it was really interesting that it started with Yuri and his wife. And I wonder why that was the choice. Like, I guess that's kind of like the linchpin of a lot of things in the series with other people that he meets, like with the compass and other stuff. So I guess that's why they did it. But it was definitely interesting when you switch to the other characters and it's like, okay, Yuri might not be the main character of this story.
Yeah. I don't know if it's going to continue switching or anything, because I think we stuck with Yuri like for more than like 2 chapters or something. So, I mean, I think we've been with Hachimaki for like most of the series now, but I'm not sure how much it would transition from person to person.
Yeah, it does like it does continue to switch back and forth, but at its core, it's all around that crew.
Okay.
That crew. So, hi. But yeah, how did you guys feel about Hachimaki's character development?
Okay. I read this all in one go, so I'm trying to like remember every single thing that like really stuck out to me. But I think at the beginning he seems to be the kind of guy that's just like, I'm gonna get in and I'm gonna like do what I have to do. And everyone's like, yeah, but it's really hard to get in. And he's like, yeah, that's why I'm getting in, because I'm really good. And like he just seems to be like that kind of like sort of cocky personality, but it's almost earned in a way because he spent so much of his life doing this. It's not like he woke up one day and said, I'm going to be an astronaut, but this is like his biggest dream. But I think it's, I'm not exactly sure like why his goal is to just be like, I'm going to be so famous, then I'm going to buy a rocket. The end. Like, I don't know like what he wants to explore with the rocket, but I think it's just sort of one of those childhood dreams that it's like, what do you want to do? Because you have to pick something. And he's like, astronaut, have my own rocket. And I think like as he progresses through and he has to deal with I forget what the name was, but there was like I think like a Russian or somewhat Russian in the general area of Russia. There was another astronaut that got like their ship got taken down and he had to carry the other astronaut all the way to the other base. Yeah. And I think during that time it was sort of like this ultimate test of will, kind of, because he was saying like, okay, it's a 6-hour walk, so let's walk. And the other guy was like, I can't move. And he's like, then I'll carry you for 6 hours all the way to the other side. And the other guy was like, oh, just let me go. Like, it's fine. Like, oh, I miss, like, I shouldn't have come. And he's like, well, if you shouldn't have come, you shouldn't have become an astronaut. But I think that's still like his initial personality talking. And after that whole experience and on and on and on, he starts to realize like there are a lot more to people than just like, I want to do it, so I'll do it. But there are just still like many things that he doesn't have in his life that other people experience in their own lives and their own, like their journeys to their goal. And just because they're different doesn't make one better or worse than the other. So I think that was really important for him because he just seemed to be so strong-willed, like this is the only path that I can take. And it's good that he still was able to like accomplish the things that he wanted to. But I think that was like sort of the trigger to the end of like the chapter 12 sort of like, oh, everywhere is space thing, which I loved. I thought that was amazing.
I know. I really liked when he met the 12-year-old Lunarian and was like, I guess the lesson that he learned from that was kind of that like everywhere is space and that it's kind of different for other people than I was thinking of it before. And I liked, even in the early chapters, you could tell that they were developing him really early. And I thought that that was really cool. And even with the other characters as well, like with the lady, I forgot their names, but the lady who smoked, and then of course the man who lost his wife, like there was just development throughout the story. And that's what I love. I love character development and I just love characters. And so that's, I think, what drew me to the story.
Mm-hmm.
I was majorly intrigued when, like, the girl who used to live, I don't remember her name, like, who kisses the main guy, right? I'm not.
Tanabe.
Right?
Tanabe?
I think
Yeah.
The intern?
Yeah,
Is she intern or the new rookie?
Yeah, so their both relationship is so like enjoyable to read. I really like whenever they used to banter, it used to be so fun. Like it made, I don't know why, but it literally made the story more interesting to me. But like like the character development was really good, and like in the beginning it was really confusing what actually happened to Yuri's wife. Like I was really confused, like what's going on, until then they show the, like, she dies and like he has the pen, what's that, the compass.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that was really like I was confused, and then when it goes back, back and forth, it really is hard to keep up with the names because there are so many characters and so many people's point of view. So, and there is so much going on in the whole 12 chapters, so to keep it like in the head, to like, okay, yeah, this was so interesting. So that's where where it becomes a single perspective, you're more like likely to grasp the scene and like something. But when this is happening, it's really hard for me at least to register like what's exactly going on. So when it focuses on was it Harsh, I'm not sure.
Hachimaki?
Yeah
Hashimaki's POV, it was more like understandable because obviously we're going through the story from his point of view and what he is feeling and what he wants. And when Rachel said, you were saying, right, that he just wanted the airplane to just, I mean, sorry, rocket. He wanted to buy a rocket, but didn't he mention like somewhere that he wants to explore the space with his rocket or something? Does he, or does he mention that?
He does mention that, I think, in one of the chapters, that he feels like, I think there's two things going on with him, because we learn throughout the book that his father was this really famous, well-known astronaut. Yeah. So part of it, I feel like, could be that he's like trying to fill his father's shoes or like prove himself, which his younger brother may also be doing from that one chapter where we got to see what was going on back home.
Yeah.
But I think he also mentioned somewhere that he feels like if he completed the Jupiter mission, because of the level of fame that would come with it, he would have all the comforts and be so monetized that he wouldn't have to work hard anymore, or something along those lines, if I remember.
Even his dad's character was very interesting. Like how, like he's so chillaxed about everything, whereas Hashimaki is like super hyper that I want to do this, I want to do that. It was so opposite to each other, yet so interesting. Like the way his dad used to respond and the way he used to respond was so opposite yet so interesting. So I really like the dynamic their relationship. It was really interesting as well.
Yeah, I really like the dad's character. I think the way that they play off of each other was done really well, and I love that. Like they're trying to find the dad to send him on the Jupiter mission, which is all Hachimaki wants. And then his dad like crawls out of an air vent, like, "Are they gone? Okay, good." And it's like, "Why don't you want to go on this mission?" He's like, "I'm done with space life. I'm gonna go back and settle down." And then after all of these, more intense events happen, then he calls his wife back and he's like, "Okay, it'll be a little bit longer." And I mean, I think there's probably like a lot of readjusting that it takes for any astronaut to come back to Earth. But I think there's also like a very fantastic experience of being in space that you probably become very accustomed to after several years of it, but you would probably like miss that magic when you get back to Earth, because like, just the way that your body feels is going to be completely different. But I think also space is such an unknowable entity that we as humans generally understand to a certain degree, but it's like a minuscule degree versus like what it's like to actually be there. Especially if you're an astronaut, you're probably like intelligently like trained enough to actually understand everything in terms of the science behind it, but it also poses much more existential kind of questions, and that's kind of like your whole entire life. And then coming back down to Earth, I think that's a whole other experience as well. But I also really liked like a little bit, stepping away from this topic for a second, but I also really liked the fact that this seemed to be like so progressed to the point where they were like, "Oh, you're having a bad day, okay, go back to Earth for a day." Like it was like not a big deal to like go between like Earth and wherever it was that they were. They were like, we'll just send him back down to Earth and put him in the hospital, and then he can come back in like a year or something. And I was like, what? Like, isn't it like really hard to do that? I always thought it was like, I mean, I'm sure it only takes like a day to go back and forth, but it's so expensive, and it's just like, as far as American space programs, it always seems like, we get to do like one mission a year, and that's basically it. So going back and forth is not a possibility. But I liked that because I think it just made the world a little bit bigger, because there was a bigger experience between Earthlings and like the lunar people, and then like everybody that's going back and forth and all the astronauts. So I just thought that was really cool. But I'm a big like sci-fi kind of person, so I think that I really enjoyed this because it reminded me of a lot of other sci-fi books that I've enjoyed in the past. And I think it's hard to say like what that quality is, like what's that je ne sais quoi that makes it so fun. But whatever that is, I think it's here in Planets.
Yeah, when I was reading it, I haven't read too many sci-fi books, but I remember a while ago I played Mass Effect, the game, and it just reminded me of like specifically when he was when he like got sick in space in that chapter, and he was like, I don't know, he had to go to the hospital, but not for his leg, for the other time. And it just reminded me of like the dangers of space, and that's super interesting to me. And then another thing about this story is that it's kind of silly and funny at times, like there's humor and comedic relief. And I love that too. And I guess specifically with like the main character, well, okay, with Hashi, he was like really funny to me. And I was like laughing out loud when things would happen with him. And also like that chapter when the lady was smoking, I thought that chapter was really funny. At times it was like, I thought, oh, is it going to be serious? Because there was like dangerous people who were, blowing up things. But then it was like pretty funny overall.
Yeah, I mean, didn't she? Okay, that's the other thing. Like, she literally like crashed their spaceship into another spaceship, and I was like, for what money? Like, oh my god,
things people will do for their addictions.
But I mean, it had to be done because otherwise, like, I mean, I don't remember if it was like the International Space or no. I mean, like the Earth base for like all their space operations was like, we have to evacuate, we have like 2 minutes and we're all gonna die. And so like if she hadn't done that, it would have been like a mass destruction kind of thing. So I mean, I actually like that it's more whimsical than it is like existential, I guess. Hi, Eric. Because I think like a lot of sci-fi is very like heady, where it makes you think like, what am I doing here? What's the purpose of life? And there were moments like that, but I think it's also whimsical enough that you could just have fun with the series too.
Yeah.
And you don't have to take everything so seriously, where it's like, well, I had to outweigh the cost of our lives versus everyone on Earth. And they were like, no, I just had to crash my spaceship into another spaceship. It just makes sense. And it's like, yeah, I guess so. Like, okay.
Oh, Eric, if you're still here, I feel like you would enjoy this manga. Eric loves sci-fi too. This is planets, planeteds, whatever you want to call it. Slice of life. We're not sure what to call it. Garbage men in space. You would like it.
It really balanced those tones really well. Like going from, you know, grief to humor to, I guess, like existential life discussions or, you know, thoughts. And it was awesome.
And
what
I
did you guys... Oh,
it covered a lot of topics.
Wait, what?
Okay. I just covered a lot of topics. Like, you know, it had a lot of genre in it. I don't know how to explain, but like as Nana said, right, it was recovering from grief. It was like humor, and then you had these very like these were the questions: what are we doing here? What are we even here for? Like those were the questions making me think, like existential crisis. Like what am I here for? So yeah, those were like, you know, fun to read as well. And then there was a bit of romance as well. So it was a kind of wholesome yet a bit confusing from the beginning. So it was really nice. Like I did not expect that to happen, but yeah, it was really nice.
Yeah, I also felt like I just don't really read like sci-fi manga that often, because I feel like it's usually like mecha stuff, which I just, not that like I'm like, I'll never read mecha, but for some reason it's not really like what I'm really drawn to. I just prefer like, you know, more like plot-based, character-based stories than like a cool robot. So for me, I just didn't really like think what other sci-fi is out there. But I feel like this is, I mean, obviously I don't know the genre of manga sci-fi, but I feel like it's still a rare gem in it, because it touches so well on all these different topics. It discusses you know, very human aspects, and I think that's always what is the most meaningful to me, because like every time I read a story and I can relate to the characters in a deeply human way, where I feel like this is a real experience that any other person could feel, or this is an experience that is like very specific to how I have felt in the past. That's always what really gets me, because it feels like the author has really, really put a lot of thought into their story and then crafted everything around that point and made it work. And I think, I mean, like, not to sound pretentious, but I feel like I've had my good share of existential crises before, because like I used to like read philosophy stuff in like college, and like physics courses are a lot about like space and what's really out there and what are we made up of, and if that's true, then what about a soul, and what is this, and like that's all the stuff I was always really interested in. So I feel like I had like a lot of those thoughts before, but I just don't really feel like that many other like manga or books in general have given me that like end of chapter 12 feeling, when he looks around and he says like, oh, I understand now. Yuri's, or not Yuri, the Russian guy, I forgot his name.
I forgot his name too, but the you're talking about the one who he carried?
Yeah. When he said like his hospital room is space, the moon is space, Jupiter is space, this is space, everything is space. And I was like, that's true, because you know, we think of like, this is the home base, and then I'm gonna go up there in that space. But if you grew up on the moon, that's your home base, and the Earth is space, and everything around you is space. And like, you know, we just happen to be living on one little rock here in everything else, but we don't think of ourselves as like in the grand scheme of things, we think of ourselves as like here, and then everything goes out. But that's the same like kind of Copernicus thing of like everything centers around us, and it's like it doesn't. We're just a little speck. It doesn't make anything that we experience any less meaningful, but it actually makes everything more meaningful, because if we find meaning in what we have in a little speck, everything else around there has the same amount of meaning to those people and to those beings and to just the general things that are around there, whether they're sentient or not. And I think those are the things that like, you know, it starts as just like a little thing where they're like, this is space. And I'm like, and so it means this. And like, I think that's like a fantastic kind of ripple effect that the author did like such a great job to build up to that moment.
You know that meme of like that astronaut who's pointing a laser at another astronaut who's looking at a planet of like Earth? And it's like always has been. I feel like that is like this manga, because it's like funny, but it's also like existential and kind of blows your mind a little bit. And I feel like that is Planetes or Planetes.
I have not seen that meme, but if you can drop it in the Discord, I want to see it.
Let me see if I can like, maybe we could like show it on here or something. I'll try and find it.
See, Rachel, if you have more book suggestions like that, I love being in an existential crisis. So please throw them my way.
If I can think of any, I will definitely pass them your way. I feel like every time I'm put on the spot of like, give me something that will make me question everything about the world. I'm like, it's definitely happened before, but I don't remember. But I definitely think like, I think sometimes authors really try to like make you question things, and it doesn't always succeed, because there's just like a certain, like, I guess everyone kind of has like a personal bar of like, this is the stuff I've considered before, and then here's the stuff that like is kind of new to me. And like the author will try to like reach this limit, but sometimes I guess like as you read more and more, or you experience more and more, the bar gets kind of like higher and higher based on everything that you've experienced. So I don't always think that authors will always succeed with me, because these are things I've thought about a lot of the time. But I think that things like this final, you know, thing, but also everything else that happens throughout it, and a lot of those spreads where it'll be like just like one person like saying something, like Tanabe, I think it was, who was like holding like the coffin over her head, and she was saying like this is selfish that he decided like, oh, I love space so much, I'm gonna go die in space. And it's like, you have a whole family on Earth that cares about you, and you're more interested in your own personal selfish dreams, and you have all of these people that love you, and you're completely ignoring them to go die in space. This is the stupidest thing ever. We're taking this guy back down to Earth. And I was like, yeah, I mean, like, because it's not something that I'm like, oh, I'm gonna have an existential crisis about this, but I just think it's the kind of thing that makes you think again about like, is what I'm doing good? Is what I'm doing a selfish thing? And if it is it like the kind of selfishness that's allowable? Or is it the kind of selfishness that kind of stands against all of like the love and care I've had from everybody else that I have? And I think, you know, this is like a much bigger instance of like, I'm not going to space to die, probably. But at the same time, it makes you think about those kinds of things. And that Hachimaki was kind of like, yeah, I mean, that's what he wanted to do. And Tanabe was like, this is inherently selfish. And we can have this kind of like butting of heads to discuss that kind of thing. But I think it was like done really well, because it was like, I don't know, like 10 pages or something. And it really made me think about that.
Hey, Andy.
Hi, Andy.
Andy said, wait, it was space.
Always has
been. Yeah, it's like that prompt.
Awesome. Okay, awesome. So does I think we're a little over like the 30-minute mark. Does anyone have any last things they want to talk about this manga before we move into?
Do we want to just do star ratings and then move on?
Yeah. Well, I picked it, so I guess I'll start with someone else. So Nana, you want to go first?
Yeah, I was thinking about it after I read, and I am unsure if it's a 5 or a 4, because it's really good, but for some reason I'm like, I need to really think about it before I give it a 5. But I think it'll be like a 4.5, because it's like perfect, but I'm still a little hesitant.
I get that. Preet?
Mm-hmm. I gave it 3 stars because, I mean, it was out of my comfort zone, but as I told you, for me giving 4 or 5 stars, I need to be really gripped. So yeah, I gave it 3 stars.
Awesome. Rachel?
I rated like volume 1 different from volume 2, I guess, because I wasn't really sure like what we would consider like what it was, but I gave volume 1 3 stars, and I gave volume 2 4 stars, because given that like it had a lot of those like really great like wow moments, it made me want to like raise my rating a lot higher. But I do think there were a lot of very like confusing things that were hard to get a grasp on what was going on and why. Like we were suddenly like jumping from like one thing to the next, and I think sometimes that kind of like episodic writing is not my favorite. We also didn't even talk about like the terrorist attempt, which was a whole thing, but that was also like, I think things that were like raising my expectations, but I'm a pretty harsh rater. So I think given like my 3-ish, 4-ish, if you can stick with the series for more than a volume, I would definitely highly recommend it.
Oh, awesome. I think those are all fair assessments. So like this was my second time reading this, and I first read this like 4 years ago. So the first time I read it, I gave it a full 5 stars because I'd never read a sci-fi like this. I think similar to what Rachel said, it was always like mecha, Gundam, like space battle, that kind of stuff. So to read something that had a much more of a humanitarian aspect to it was different and new. So I was like, oh my gosh, this is the best thing ever. But now that I'm more versed in sci-fi, I can see things in here that I'm like, I agree with you guys. I would have ordered things differently or started the book out differently, other things. So I'm leaning right now between a 4 and a 4.5 for this. I still really liked it. Okay, awesome. Hi.
Yeah, I was also reading this while I was reading The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet, which is so spacey. And then I was watching Firefly, which is also very spacey, before reading The Long Way. So everything was like space, space, space. And I was like, oh my God, like I hope I don't confuse like all the storylines with each other, but they are like very distinct. I think that it's interesting how different each of these stories can really be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Long Way is also very like humanitarian discussion on space. But yeah, awesome. Okay, cool. So should we talk about Overlord?
Overlord.
Woo! Okay, so I figured
I'm so interested to see what everybody thinks.
Yeah, I'm anxious too, because even my own rating surprised myself, and I picked it.
I was spying on your guys' ratings on Goodreads because I like finished it last night, and I was just like, is it over already? Okay, let me go rate it. And I was like, 2 stars, 3 stars, like.
I'm unsure on like what to rate it. I just know that when I feel like for me, because after I read it, I was kind of confused after the 3 volumes. And so I went to the wiki and read the summaries, and I was like, oh, okay, just contextualized everything. And I feel like the basic summaries of it interested me more than when I was reading it actually, like when the actual details were happening.
Yes.
I feel like maybe it was a little too confusing for me at first.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. So I'm honestly between, although we're not at ratings yet, I think I'm between like a 2 and a 3, just because like it was confusing for me, but I think what it was trying to do was definitely interesting.
Yeah, exactly. Like same for me. Like when I ventured into it, I was very confused. Like what's going on? Like it started off well actually. Like okay, I was trying to understand. Like okay, it's a game, and the game stops, and something's going on. And after that, I'm super clueless. Like what's going on? What are these levels? Or why is he going to the human land and everything like that? It was so confusing, but I still kept reading. So when I'm confused, I end up not actually liking it. Like I could understand what they're trying to portray, but at the same time I was like, okay, so I'm really confused, like what is going on. So the explanation part wasn't well done, like the dialogue part, like how it should have been done, like other how I have read other mangas, how they go step by step. I didn't find that happening. Like it really confused me, because once I was reading something, and in the next chapter something else was happening. Like
Yeah.
they were trying to do dual, like something like few people were in this game kind of thing, few people in the land kind of thing. I was really confused at that point, so I was like, okay, fine, I'm reading it. And so actually I didn't end up liking it much because I was super confused. Like so same with me, I kind of rated it like 2.5 3 stars around that time. Same.
I gave everything 2 stars because I didn't like it. The thing is, have any of you played D&D before?
No.
Okay. Every single like attack that was given in the story was literally straight out of a D&D handbook. So I was really confused on how this could possibly be a video game that has nothing to do with D&D, because this is supposed to be like a virtual headset thing that the guy is in. And a lot of the like NPCs, I was like, there are way too many NPCs, number one, not just because I don't know who everybody is, but number two, they weren't even introduced. So they were introduced in the way that it was like, hi, my name is A, I will serve you. My name is B, and I will serve you. And they went through like A through Z, and I was like, so who are you? Like, what's your deal? Like, what's your thing? And each character, like, just seemed to like exist for the purpose of serving this guy who was like, wait, am I popular? And I was like, wait, so what's the plot of this story? Is he trying to escape the world? And he was like, why should I go back to my real life if like I don't have a family, I don't have a girlfriend, I don't have anything like that I should do in my real life, so I'll just stay here. And I was like, okay, so what's the plot? And he's like, anyway. And I was like, wait, so what's the plot though? Because I feel like the entire time it was just like NPCs fighting and then being him showing up and just being like skull level strong. And like it's like One Punch Man if it wasn't fun. Like my brutal opinion is just like, I feel like the author tried to like really tried to make it like this overpowered kind of like cool main protagonist, but it fails in my like, I think there are certain aspects of it that it really fails upon because it doesn't give us somebody to root for the way that it does with like Saitama in One Punch Man is like, he's very humble, but he's like an underdog kind of character where he's not braggy. He's not like, yeah, I'm super powerful. Oh, you shouldn't have crossed me. Now I'm going to kill you with my one punch. But like, that's kind of what this Overlord guy was like. Cause he's just like, oh, how dare you hurt these people I don't care about? I'll kill you. And everyone's like, you can't kill me. I'll kill you. And he's like, oh, this is not even that hard. And then he'll kill everybody. And then he'll just do it again the next chapter. And I was like, I don't really understand like why this is a manga. Because I just felt like the most like questionable thing for the main character is just being like, so what can I do? Can they tell it's me if I put on armor? Why is the world like slightly different from what I remember in the video game? And I think that would have been interesting to explore if there was like a real set of like, the game is like this, but here's what's different. This one's different. This is different. So am I like unbeatable? What does it mean if like this whole world is totally different from what I remember? Maybe this isn't like an exact parallel, but it just kind of seemed like it didn't matter. Because even though he was like, oh, there's grass over there when it should be sharper grass, I was like, I don't see what the purpose is at all. And I definitely got confused by like I think I maybe read like one more chapter than I should have. Also, hello, while I wrote this book. I read like one more chapter than I was supposed to. I'm not exactly sure, but like the last chapter that I read, made absolutely no sense to me, and I had to go back and read it again. And I feel like if your book requires me to read the entire chapter over to understand it, there's something missing. There's something wrong.
Yeah.
I'll stop now.
That's okay. No, you're totally fine. Wait, I have to ask, was the last chapter you read with vampires? Because I accidentally read up to that. Okay. No,
yeah, I read
it.
Because I also thought that like maybe because like Planets seemed kind of long each volume, that Overlord seemed really short because it was like 3 chapters or 4 chapters and then it was over. And I was like, oh, are we on volume 2 now? Okay. But like, I just didn't feel like there was like that much driving me forward other than the live show. Cause I was like, I'll read it for the show. I got no problem with it, but I don't really feel like this is anything I'm going to continue after this.
I 110% agree. I was shocked by my own reading because I don't even know. So I gave volume 1 to 2 on Goodreads, and like I really love the anime. And so reading the first volume of the manga, I was like, what the hell is this? Like, this sucks so bad.
There were so many people who gave it 5 stars. Like I
didn't
was
like
looking
it.
at everyone else's rating who's like an anime stan for like whatever it was, and they were like, "It's just like the show.
No,
it's amazing.
it's not.
Everyone should read it." And I was like, "I hope it's not," because Steph said the show's way better.
The show's way better. Okay, here if I can comment really quick on everything you guys said. So like I don't know what the disconnect is between the manga and the show. I need to do a whole video about like comparing the anime to the manga now. It has to happen because literally we just watched the entire first season in 3 volumes. Like that's how fast the manga went. And I was like, there's no character development. We don't know the backstory, anything about his time before his friends left. We didn't get any of that story. We didn't learn about how, like, Albedo and all the other NPCs who were like his minions. We didn't learn about how they acted before the switch, so we didn't get a taste for their personalities prior to that. We didn't get to see, like, in the show, it's so much more we see him as a villain, and so it's kind of like we're not rooting for him because we see that he's actually a really horrible person, but we get to follow him like through his manipulation and whatever. And I feel like this
opposite.
It's like,
was like, oh, we see you as a brilliant hero. You're so sexy, sir. And I was like, excuse me.
What is this? I mean, that does happen with the two main NPCs who he like reprogrammed in the beginning as a joke, like, oh, what if they were in love with me? And then it actually like comes to fruition. Yeah. But like in the anime, we got a small taste of them just being regular NPCs before that. And like I was super confused with the whole like name dropping of all these other characters who, had I not watched the show, and I would have been like, what is going on? And also like the main story of how he's trying to get popular in this world by being a villain, but then also being a hero. I don't know if it was clear to you guys, but I felt like had I not watched the show, that would have gone way over my head.
I could see that like around like volume 2 or 3 where he was like, I want clout, so I guess I'll do like adventures and then I'll get money or whatever. So yeah, Andy, okay. Something with me, please.
It surprised me when Rachel said that I thought you willingly read like the other chapter, that we didn't have to, because once I was done with volume 3, I was like, okay, let me like move on. I was done.
Extra chapter, right? Like they were explaining something, like there was this backstory in the online site. At least they had this backstory. I don't know what kind of thing was it. Was just the written part.
Oh, I didn't read that. I skipped right over that.
This is going to be like some fan servicey fan fiction, and I'm not interested because I already have to see like 4 women simping over a skull. So I'm done. Like, enough.
No, seriously, like I could find like he was trying to, portray himself as a hero, but at the same time, he knew that he wanted to, crush people and be the, the powerful person all around, but he needed to be the hero first to get their trust and then crush them and be the villain, that's what
I think it would have been interesting for him to either like completely fall into the like the characterization of being a villain where it's like, okay, I'll just be like the worst possible person ever. Or for him to have the whole like revelation that, oh my God, wait, all these people are basically like people now. So it's different from playing a game. Because if I said like, hey, let's play Super Smash Brothers, the point is to beat each other up. Yes, please let me off this ride. Yeah, I mean like, okay, so let's say we play Smash. The point is to beat each other up. Or if we played like Zelda, like the point is to go beat up the bad guys. Like that's the point. Or even if there isn't like a bad guy, sometimes you just run around like, what would happen if I just cut this person's head off? Like, because it doesn't matter. It's a game. It's a programmed game. But if you got stuck in the game and then everyone developed personalities, you'd be like, oh wait, these are like people now. Now I can't do that. But if you found that like all of your like superpowers or your skills were like destroy human, burn village, like kill people, you'd be like, I can't use any of this. So it'd be interesting to see him have to like start from scratch and like get a different leveling up. Like in D&D, I mean, it's not going to be exactly the same, but like if you had to like, if you picked a certain class and you were like, I'm a fighter, then you can get all of your skills in fighter class. But if all of the fighter skills were like kill person, destroy village, burn home of innocent child, and like these were all the things and you were like, I don't want to do this anymore, you'd have to start from level 1 and go get different skills from a different class. So I think that could have been an interesting thing for them to explore. They didn't do that. Instead they were just like, I'm a skull in a cloak, but I wish nobody knew it because then they will simp over me too hard and I can't leave. But it doesn't matter because they still follow him around.
I can't believe we read 3 volumes of A Skull in a Cloak. Like, we really did this.
Where I was like, this isn't even like Billy and Mandy's like Grim Reaper. Like, he's worse. Like,
But you know what? I'm actually happy about this because I feel like every manga or most mangas that we read up until now, we loved it. So to have something to rant about, I'm loving this right now.
It's great. No, I mean, like, the thing is, like, I'm glad that they did it, I guess, if the anime is so much better, but I don't understand how this was the source material and then they sold it off to become an anime, because there was like a chapter where they were like, everyone, we're going into the world of animation. I can't believe it. Oh, I hope they change it so I get to be with this. And I was like, okay, like, whatever. Like,
it was so hilarious reading that part. Like, they're like, oh my god, I'm gonna buy so many copies, and I'm like, okay, fine.
Like, okay.
But like it is true, like, you know, you need, like, it would be so much more interesting that if we came to know like how he developed the powers by going each level, because that would have made it more interesting to read, because you would have come to know what each levels were about, rather than just him having all the power at, you know, the beginning. And since we knew all that, like, we knew kind of that if he's gonna go into a fight, he will definitely win, even if, you know, the person's like, okay, no, I'm gonna kill you or whatever. But it was so predictable that he's gonna win, you know.
Okay,
and
the other thing is that when they were fighting, they were like, oh, you've never seen level 3 magic before? And I was like, level 3 magic is weak as hell. Like, I don't understand how, like, this other guy's, like, summoning an angel or, like, a bone dragon, and then you're gonna beat him with level 3 magic? What are you talking about? No! Like, is it level 3 times 10? You can't summon this kind of stuff with level 3 D&D magic. No, it's impossible. What are you talking about? Who wrote this? Is it the translation? And, like, I did not enjoy that, like, okay, when you play D&D, you have skills and spells, but you don't say, like, okay, I will cast hold person on you, and then you can't move, ha! Like, you just say, like, I'm gonna cast hold person, and it'll say, like, okay, you held your hand out, and then suddenly they were like, oh, I can't move, like, you act it out. It's a role-playing game. You don't say, like, Master, will you use hold person or fireball on that? Like, you don't reference your spells in this thing. What are you doing? The fiction. Live in the fiction with me. What are you doing?
So something that brings me to another thing I wanted to talk about that was really different, and that I was like, why did they? I feel like they cut out all the good content, like, because I feel like they brushed over, like, there were so many human NPCs or characters that are so important to the storyline, and they just kind of, like, brushed over them, I felt like, because it was just going way too fast. Like, in the anime, we spend more time with him, like, talking to the human characters and getting to know them and their backstories and everything, and he ends up, like, feeling conflicted because most of his main source of magic is, like, necromagic, whatever. And so he's like, how do I interact and help these human characters, one, without them finding out that I'm an evil wizard magician, but two, most of my magic is death magic, so if I use it on them, they're probably going to die. So he's like, that happens in the anime. And also he begins to struggle with, like, being a villain, but also needing to relate to the humans from a human, like, as a human. However, as time goes on, the more he's stuck in the game, the more he starts to believe that he is actually the villain and forget that he's a guy in a game. So it's like this whole aspect to it. And none of that was discussed.
It's so sad because there's such interesting content there. It's kind of like fulfilling your predetermined destiny a little bit and trying to fight against that. But as you said, it was so rushed in the manga that I thought when I was reading it, I was like, am I skipping chapters accidentally?
I was reading, like, the right is this, like, the spin-off where they retell it or something? Because I was like, there's, like, not a lot going on right now. Just
it made me feel.
Oh, go ahead, Preet.
It made me feel how stories go on after the end comes. Like, you know what I said, like, the story ended, and, like, what happens after the end comes, you know what like, it was like, it made me feel that, like, I couldn't get it. Okay, I just got, there was this countdown to a game, and then I didn't even know that the person was stuck. I thought these were the character inside the game and nothing's going on, you know what, I couldn't understand until I, you know, read the summary or something like that. I couldn't. I thought it was like
because nothing happened.
Nothing happened.
happened.
Hi, Sandy.
Hi, Sandy.
Thanks for coming.
Oh my god.
We're ranting right now. Everyone who just showed up, we're ranting about Overlord, which is a manga.
I totally get you though, because I feel like if there had been like, okay, if they had started out the game being like, "Hi, my name's Joe. I love this game. My favorite characters are this, and they had like from like the first chapter, I was like, it would be really great if they had like, I don't know, maybe like a little pixelated version of like what they look like while he's playing the game as a human being, and he has like the headset on and he's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna make my character creation or like whatever, and go in, and it showed it as like, this is my character, or like these are the NPCs that I interact with all the time.
Can I hop on to you real quick to what you're saying? Okay, in the opening episode of the anime, that kind of happens, because in the very first scene, he's sitting in his like what do you call it? The massive tomb of Nazarick, the giant home, the big like tomb, whatever, where they live, right? Him and all his. We're gonna start calling it D&D because they literally ripped it off. But like he's in their home base, right? And he's talking to another player before he's the last one. So it's like the last other person to still play the game.
Oh, yeah.
And they're just sitting there having conversation. Like, you remember when the beta came out and good times and all the adventures we went on, and they're talking, and the friend's like, okay, all right, I'm gonna go now. I guess we're done here. And so that, like, we have some of that before we see that he's the last person. But here it was just like, we just jumped in with no backstory.
Yeah, like, we got like there were 3 panels of that other guy being there and being like, "Hey, I'm really sorry, but I'm gonna leave this server and go to the New Yggdrasil too. See you there." And the other guy was like, "Yeah, fool! How dare you abandon what we had all along? Okay, I don't care anyway. I'm gonna sit in my throne for 24 hours and wait for the server to close." And I was like, "You have nothing better." Like, he was like, I have to be up at 4 a.m., so I'll just sit here till the server closes. I was like, for 24 hours? What are you doing? 24 minutes? Did I read it wrong? Because, like, he just sat there for so long, and he was like, yeah. And I was like, you're not going to do anything? Like you're not going to have, like, one last go where you, like, run through the town and, like, do all your cool stunts, cast your magic spells? I know you got, like, spell slots. Come on. We know it's D&D ripped straight off of it, so come on, do something. And he literally just sat in a chair like this. Whether it was 24 minutes or 24 hours, I don't care. That is a waste of time. You could have an audiobook. You did nothing. He did nothing.
It's a good example of, like, because I feel like for the host club, we've read a couple mangas that are really fast-paced, like Devil's Line or Sweat and Soap. They're very fast-paced, and this one is also pretty fast-paced. But it's like, I guess it's kind of a detriment in the manga form since you're not exploring everything correctly. So a lot of us, like, are talking about the same thing.
In the way that, like, it's fast-paced, like, if I read a book, but I only read every other page. So, like I just don't have any context for what's going on, and then we just move along, and I'm like, but are we going to talk about all those people who got slaughtered in an inn because of you? And he's like, I don't care. And I'm like,
I just feel it.
What are you doing?
I just feel it loses the main parts, and that's why it is called the fast pace. Like, losing the main part kind of fast pace. Like, you don't even know what's going on, and then you jump to the end without even knowing what's happening. So I just feel that it's fast paced in the sense that you don't know the main concept and just, reading the conclusion like that way. So I feel that's what is going on in the whole Overlord, series. I mean, I don't know how the other volume progressed. Like, it's so vague. I don't even want to continue anymore. Like, I know he will win all the time, so why I'm wasting time to just read him or simping over a skull? Like, it doesn't.
Okay, that's the other thing. It's like, I never really enjoy whenever there's like a random like female character who only exists to like salivate over the main character and be like, I can't wait to have your babies. There was literally a thing where she's like, I already learned how to knit. I made all the clothing for our children up to age 5, and I was like, listen, you could get a hobby or 10, but why? Because like, what, like, I don't even know if she was like the one that he reprogrammed to love
Yeah.
him or something, but like,
She was.
love is different from whatever that is. That is not appropriate, ma'am. Like, why? There was no need for this.
I was even questioning how
Your
can
understanding.
you have a baby with a skull man? Like, does that even make sense?
No, I think it's just the programming.
I think it's just the like, it's just the obsession, because like it's almost as if you just program like, I want this person to like die for me, like I want them to love me so much, and the like, that apparently is the only way that women can show their affection, is being like, I will have so much sex with you and I will have so many children even though you are literally a piece of bone, and that is it. Like I hate that a lot, because I just feel like, number one, like, as women, I feel like whenever I watch women on screen in anime, it's sometimes, in recent days less, but I think growing up, it was a lot harder to find women that were like respectable in anime, because a lot of the times they existed just to simp over some guy. Yeah, man. Man. She was like,
And this is a
I have
skull.
a body pillow. I have 12 body pillows of him that I knitted myself. I'm like, oh my god, this is like the skin suit thing that we just saw. Like, no, please. But yeah, I mean, I don't think it was like horrible all the time, but I think a lot of the times growing up there were like very few roles that women could fill in anime and manga, because it was always like, she's the love interest, that's it. Or it was like, she's the main character in like a magical girl anime, but she's in love with this guy, and like all she does is like think about him, and then the terrible choices she has to make as a magical girl of like fighting these bad guys, but it's also like, oh my god, him, like and like that was kind of it. So like in general, women tend to exist in these sort of worlds just to love men, kind of, right? So like it's annoying to see that all the time, or even when the women don't fill those roles but the guys are still like, oh, I got to see her underwear, and I'm like, is this really the level we have to be at? So like I feel like we got past this in recent years, but then having to go back and read something like this where it's like, oh my god, I get to be with him, like, didn't we get past this in 2015? Like, can we not go back and do this again, please? Like,
Aaron. Oh my gosh, it was so fun. Yeah, it was bad. It was actually the whole time I was reading, because me and my hubby, we watched the anime like twice, and as I was reading the manga, I was coming up to him, I was like, look at this, does this make sense, did this happen, I don't remember this, what is this? And he's just like, calm down. I was like, this is not good.
Okay, Andy said Madoka Magica, but no, Madoka Magica is gay and we love it. It's also heartbreaking and it will kill you, but it's gay.
I haven't seen it.
So that's good.
All right. Do we have anything else about Overlord that we want to rip apart?
I don't know. I feel like I've said my piece. It was not a fun time for me.
It wasn't a good one.
Same here.
So I
think it was fun to, like, I don't know. Like, sometimes I read stuff that's not good, but I'm like saving kernels for the live show because I'm like, this wasn't good, so we'll discuss this. Like, yeah. So it was still enjoyable to have like something to rant about for like the first time in 2021. That was a good time.
Also, just one more thing. I did not like the action scenes in this. I'm just saying. Like, I felt like they were so fast. Yeah, because I think it was like, I can sometimes get behind the thing where there's like an overpowered character. Like I kind of enjoy the like back and forth of anime sequences where there's one person who's like, I beat you here, and the other person's like dying, and they're like, this isn't my final form, and like they turn into like a much worse thing, and then they're fighting each other, and it's like, your bones must be so broken. You have like 685 bones at this point. They are so broken. It is not possible. But then they like get back up on their feet and they're like, because of friendship, I'm going to beat you. And I'm like, this is ridiculous, but I'm still having a good time. That was like the opposite of this, because it was like the other person being like, I'll beat you. No, I'll beat you. And then like just totally demolished in one go. And so it was like the action sequence was just them being like, here's my worst possible thing. Here's my worst possible thing. One of them beating the other one and then them moving on. So I just felt like there was no like tension in the room. It was just sort of like, here we are. I guess I'll beat you up and then I'll move along. It's like fighting a Goomba as Mario, where it's like, what's your final form? Tell me. I could eat you right now. Like there's nothing. Like, but what? It's like laying down all your Yu-Gi-Oh cards and just be like, oh, well, you have a Blue Eyes White Dragon. All right, I guess.
Right. Yeah. It's like, why are we even still talking? Like, what?
All right, guys. So I think it's fair to say that we all rated this fairly low. I will say that I even though I rated Volume 1 a 2-star, I rated Volume 4 a 4-star, but it's more of like a 3.5, and that's for nostalgia, not even because it was good. It's just nostalgia.
Also, I would say, I feel like y'all said like 3 stars because it was like not good. Give it 2 stars, 1 star if you want. Like, don't hold your punches. There's enough people with the 5-star ratings out here. We could be honest. It's okay. I feel like I'm like lowering my rating as we discuss. I think like I give everything 2 stars, and like I think the last volume I liked more, but I like couldn't be bothered to figure out if it was like 0.5, 0.25 because I was like, it's still just okay. Like I didn't have fun with it as much as I wanted to, but I felt like there was like some potential there, which is why I wasn't like, this is trash and I hate it completely. But I do feel like after having the conversation, I always change my star rating whenever we discuss it. Usually I raise it because I feel like it's better and I'm like, wow, I had so much fun with this. But now in this case, I'm like, this is actually really bad. Like,
the only highlights I can remember are the zombies and then maybe the very ending once he beats that person who was like brainwashed. Those parts were piquing my interest, but like that was pretty much it.
And a hamster. I like my hamster. Huh?
Wait, did he beat the brainwash? I don't even remember.
Yeah.
Same here.
Yeah.
You know what I really like about like our live shows is that we can like look through the perspective of each one of us. Like, you know, I have some other perspective, then you know, Rachel has something else. So whenever like I am on the live show, I evaluate the whole story again. Like, you know, I'm like, oh yeah, it was that also, you know. So it's so interesting to be on like live show and discuss something like that because there were a few points in Planeties that I didn't realize, you know, while reading. But then when Rachel was pointing out, I was like, oh yeah, you know, that is also there. And then yeah, so I was like, oh my god, I rated quite less. Like after like hearing you guys, I feel like I should have rated it more. And in case of like Overlord, I feel like I should have rated it less. So like such a weird thing that after discussing like my star rating just changes.
Yeah, I mean, wait, what? Sorry, I'm just reading the comments versus Godzilla versus King Kong first trailer is out now.
Okay.
Is this related?
No.
Okay, sorry. I didn't know if I like missed something where I was like, did I have a whole moment just being like, all the blood went to my head because I was so upset about this that I missed something? I don't know. But I totally agree, Preet, because I feel like oftentimes when we discuss stuff, it's usually me being like, this was okay. And then we talk about stuff and I was like, wait, I really appreciate this. And I just didn't sit with it long enough. Usually because I read everything like right before the show so it's fresh, but then I don't really have the opportunity to sit with it and really see the impact of it. So I always like really, really enjoy doing live shows, whether it's like Host Club or like other book clubs that we're all a part of and stuff. But I always think that it's like incredibly beneficial to actually like get everything out there and also realize there are a lot of things that I missed or things that others missed, and then we can discuss that. But yeah, overall, I mean, like, I'm interested to see like how different the anime is, because I think we are going to do some streams over on the Discord. So if you're watching this, join the Discord if you haven't already. But my expectations are like on the floor where I'm like, as long as it's not the same as this, it's fine. Like,
I'm actually like this whole time been sitting here like, because I haven't watched the anime in over a year at least at this point, and I'm just after reading the manga, I was like, was it real? Is it as different as I remember it to be? Like, I don't remember it being like this. Is it really good, or was I like on some stuff? Like, what is happening?
I wonder if like the people who got sold like the rights to make the anime were like, yeah, but I don't like this. And like they basically had our discussion here, and then they were like, wait, let's change it and make it better.
That's how I feel. But I'm definitely I don't intend to I have no intention to reread the manga, like just from this. Like I did not like it, but because of how different I remember it to be, I feel like I have to read the manga just to make that comparison video. Like that's the only reason.
I had the same thought, like maybe the anime artist or the people who are like bringing the anime together thought like the story is missing here. Like we need to add the story. Like what's happening? Like
okay, I'll have to assume that there was like this asshole coworker who got sold the rights and then like got fired or immediately retired. So then their coworker was like, "Oh man, now I got to do it." Well, I don't like this, so I'll fix it. You've done the world a service, whoever you are. Thank you so much, because I feel like if I had watched the anime and I enjoyed it, and then I loved it so much, I might go through the manga and just be like, yeah, this is so great. This is just like that moment. Oh my god, I love it. It's like that moment, which maybe is what a lot of those 5-star people are saying, because
no, what happened to me? I'm so sad.
I think like if you already know what's going on, it'll be easier to understand. But if you just read the manga first, it literally makes no sense at all. So, like, I mean, no, like my overall rating is no, absolutely not. Don't.
Alrighty, guys. I think that is it for us because we're well over the hour mark. But thank you guys so much for joining us. And don't forget to join us next month on Rachel's channel because we will be reading the first 3 volumes of Monthly Girls Nozaki-kun and also the first volume of Horimiya. And everyone's description and link is in the description below. So I guess we'll find you guys next month. Bye, guys.
Hoping for a better month.
Yes.